Okay, we're starting a new quarter. We're doing through the Bible in 10 years. We've got a few people that have been here for 10 years. So usually that means we're studying a brand new book or books. What are we going to be studying this time? Psalms. There's more Psalms. Third book? Yes, that's right. It is the third book of Psalms. And when I first started studying, I don't know if I skipped a page or what I did, but somehow I got the impression that this morning was about 375 verses. I was like, how will we ever cover that? And then I went back to my notes and I found, oh, I think I skipped a page and it's only half that much. It's still a lot. Still way, way more than you probably want to do in a Sunday. But so just the thing about our quarterly. So if you look on the see, I guess it's page 3. So page 3, that's all the Bible when we're going to go through it and everything, so you can plan ahead. Next time we'll be doing Galatians. That's in January. So you'll see that coming up soon. And actually, what does it start in December? I think it may start in December. So it's not just, yeah. So it's coming up sooner than you think. Okay. And then also, in the very front, we have our doctrinal statement, which also goes into the back cover. It's a good thing to spend time looking at. And a few other things. Let's see, what am I going to go to? Okay. Let's do, okay, we got a homework assignment. Okay. We had a homework assignment from last quarter. It's due this quarter. You got a whole quarter to think about it. So, who all needs forms? You guys need forms? Okay, you got it? Okay, please bring it back. There you go. All right. So, it's our favorite hymns and our favorite songs. Are we doing another one? No, if you have it already filled out, you can bring it in. Oh, great. Perfect. Okay. Sure. Okay. All right. I'm not like grading anything, so don't get too excited about it. So, the whole point of it is I really do believe the Bible is written for all of us, but it's also written for each of us. And there's things that, depending on where we are in our lives, there's things that are important to us. And part of filling it out is just to say, what do you think about it? And so Brother Homer, he's like an A student. Said I wasn't grading. I'm not grading, but he did fill it out. So Brother Homer, do you want to talk about yours for a minute? Mm-hmm. And that's a quartet, right? That's a quartet? Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. And the fact that it's a part of a song is he didn't just keep it to himself. He made sure everybody knew that he was, letting him know that he was a sinner and that he took the right steps to get it back right with God, which we're all sinners. So whenever we do something wrong or we do something against God's will or God's teachings, uh, we need to make it right. We need to ask the Lord's forgiveness. We need to go back and follow his will. And David did that. He's a great example for all of us in that. And well, thanks for sharing, Brother Homer. See, he didn't even sing one of them. You would have thought Brother Homer might have thought about singing one of them. But he didn't have to. That's good. That's good. Thank you very much for doing that. Thank you for sharing that. We got so much to cover today. If we could start this quarter, we all know it's already about Psalms. It's about the Psalms of boundless praise because of deliverance. So we start out in Book 3, as Sister Helen was saying, and Book 3 starts or matches up to Leviticus. So Leviticus is after the Exodus. That's after Israel was delivered from Egypt. And so we'll learn more about that. Psalms of boundless praise because of deliverance. And then our aim this quarter, the Bible student will discover qualities in God's holy character that evoke unbounded praise. So as we understand God better, we want to praise the Lord because we see and recognize who he is. He's the master of all, the creator of all things. He's the one that provides us all things. He's the one that put us here. And even for us individually, he's the one that has blessed us. And so as you realize all the things that the Lord is and the Lord has done, it's a natural thing for us to praise him. If we acknowledge him as our Lord, part of that is praising him, saying thank you. And we'll see that in some of the verses that we're going to be, or some of the Psalms that we're going to be studying. Okay, enough of me talking. Would somebody like to read on page 4 the Seeking the Context? By the way, does anybody need a book? Does everybody have a book? Okay. Thank you, Sister Doris. There's a lot in there. It was the text was short, but there was a lot of stuff difficult to read in there. Thank you for doing that. There's a few key things in there. We already studied, and we know that this is the book of praises, and we know that it spanned almost 1,000 years, from the time of Moses all the way to the time of their return of captivity back to Jerusalem. Jesus talked about it in Luke 24. Do we think Jesus sang some of these Psalms? Do you ever think about that? I didn't think about that too much until I started studying Psalms. Some of the stuff I read here. So the Lord was definitely looking at it and studying it and singing it with others. It says Psalm spans the full range of human emotions. From one psalm to the next, it's hard to predict what's going to happen next. If you were to watch a movie or something and it'd be a cliffhanger, there's a lot of cliffhangers in the Psalms. Some are praying for the Lord's help. Some are thanking the Lord for what he's provided. Some of them are being angry at a situation. There's everything. There's everything you can think of. And all the things that we experience, you can see someone in Psalms is trying to deal with that. And we'll see that today as we get into it. Let's see. When the writer here says, maybe we're not the best singers, I think he was thinking about me when he wrote that. But it's still a blessing to sing, regardless. And then I did like how they talked about the daily devotional. So in the front here, they have the daily Bible reading. It's pretty quick to get through. It only takes a couple of minutes. So if you wanted to study something every day that was relevant to the lesson, it's pretty easy. Also, and I like the QR code. I don't think I've ever seen the quarterly have a QR code in it. That's technology coming right at us. And so the nice thing about it is if you scan that code on your phone, then you have access to those devotionals when you're waiting in line at the grocery store or whatever. I don't know, you might be at the License Bureau or wherever else. We're waiting in lines all the time, seems like. But that's something you could just flip right up, look right at it. There it is. Doesn't take too long. So it's even another way of helping you to study. So another good resource. So whatever resources are out there, pick whichever one is your favorite one and just enjoy it. Okay. So let's see here. There's so much to this. Brother Mike and I saw each other yesterday, and I told him I'm still studying. I studied all week. I started studying on Monday. I studied, was it 3 or 4 hours yesterday? Still studying. Still studying this morning, still studying. There's so much in this. Okay, we can get right to it. Where's my notes? Down at the bottom. Okay, now we're actually getting started. The lesson application for this time is we're praising God for his greatness. We're talking about Psalm 73 through 78. The student will celebrate God's greatness and sovereignty over his enemies. Would somebody like to read? Actually, that's the focus. I didn't have the QR code in my notes. Would somebody like to read Psalm 73? Thank you, Sister Kinsey. There's a lot in there. That's 28 verses. So who would like to summarize what we're reading there? Mhm. 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 Thanks, Brother Mike. It's great that Asaph points out all of this. He's just a normal person like we are. He's in the tribe of Levi, and he serves the Lord by taking care of, as a priest. So he takes care of all the different things that are there. They didn't have the temple yet, that was under Solomon, but they did have other things there where the Ark of the Covenant and all that were located. So that was his responsibility. But just like us, uh, he looks around at all the things seem to be going easy for everybody, and he gets discouraged. And so you don't have to look very far. You can walk outside. You can look at a billboard. You can look at anything. Look at TV. Look anywhere, and you're just bombarded constantly about uh, the wicked way of living, right? I mean, every single thing you say or see is you got to have this, you got to buy that, you got to live like this, you got to do that, you got to be like this person or like that person or whatever, pointing to an actual person, uh, so you can have a good life. And so you see that all the time. I don't think they came close to being bombarded in their time as we are now. It's just crazy how much we're bombarded. And Asaph, by the way, he was. This was the second psalm that he wrote, and the first of 11 consecutive psalms that have his name. He was a singer, and you know how sometimes the psalms will say to the chief musician. Well, some of the time that was Asaph. It wasn't necessarily him every single time because I think they might have rotated around, whatever. But uh, that was for him, and they talk about people that have done something good or righteous, or people that have done bad, or people that are wicked. In this case, uh, Asaph's name is mentioned, and his thoughts have become part of the Bible. So, have you ever noticed that in the Bible where the rich man, well, what was his name? We don't know what the rich man's name was. It wasn't important to know what the rich man's name was. There's lots of references in the Bible that talk about different things that don't provide somebody's name. There's lots of examples of names Like Judas. We know Judas. Why do we know Judas's name? The Lord wanted us to know his name. And so, in this case, we know that this is Asaph. And like Brother Mike said, Psalm 37 and 73 are similar. 37 is aligned to the book of Genesis. And so, as was mentioned earlier, Sister Doris mentioned and Sister Helen, is that these are all in books. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, all that. So Psalm 37 was from Genesis section. We're already in the Leviticus section. And guess what? The wicked are still around, still doing the same things, and people that are godly are still having challenges and difficulties. And so it's a natural thing. And if you look at Psalm 37, which is one of my favorites, by the way, it's on my list, about do not fret. And it's not fret because of what wicked people are doing necessarily. It's just how a situation is going to turn out, some hard situation. And so, anyway, this is so much of that. But what happens? What happens to Asaph? He's looking at how the wicked live and how they have no regard for the Lord whatsoever. They're focused on themselves. They're focused on their wealth. They're focused on oppressing others. They seem to have no difficulties at all. And he's struggling. He hasn't done anything wrong. It's he's struggling. His thoughts, he's feeling sorry for himself. It's like, look at all the stuff I have to do. I got to go take care of the Ark of the Covenant. I got to do all these priestly duties. It's all hard work. Nobody appreciates it. And look at all these people over there. Everything's easy and working out good for them. And so, as Brother Mike pointed out in the middle of it, verse 17, until I went to the sanctuary of God, then understood I their end. So he snapped out of it. The Lord said, whoa, remember all this stuff we've been teaching. Remember all this stuff you've been studying for all this time. All this that we have here today, it's temporary. What we're living today, it's temporary. The job that you have, problems you have with people at work, it's all temporary. Your car doesn't work exactly right, temporary. There's hardly anything on this earth you can think of that's not temporary. And so he realizes that God is responsible, God's in charge, and there's going to be a judgment day. And we're going to be judged on what we do, how we spend our time. And I didn't have it all memorized, like how many hours and days and all that stuff you have at different ages, but I did hear it this week about if you're 50 years old and you live to your whatever age, then how many days you have. It's a number. It's a number. You can look it up. Look up, I think I'm going to live till 100, and here's my age today, and here's how many days I got left. It's not like a million. It's like thousands. It's like you could count out however many $1 bills and put it in a suitcase, and that's the number of days you probably have. It's a finite number. And so when we think about that and think about all the things we do here, our time is running out. What is there was a soap opera, I guess I don't know if they still call it that my mother-in-law used to watch, and I think it was The Days of Our Lives or something. It's like Sands from the Hourglass or something. See, I remember all this from way back. But an hourglass is a great picture that time's disappearing. It really is. It's you're never going to get it back. Whatever happened yesterday's done, it's gone. Never going to be able to redo what you didn't do yesterday. They'll take another time to do it. And so, what does the Lord want us to worry about? Just like Asaph realized here, we should strive to be righteous and do what the Lord wants us to do. Recognize that God is in charge. God's responsible. He's the judge of all of us. and that we're going to stand before God and account for our lives. And the wicked people have to do the same thing. And so, are we thinking forward to that day by the decisions that we're making today? Do we feel like we're doing the right things? Do we think we can stand before God and answer to Him for what we did or didn't do? We're going to have to do that. And so Asaph is encouraged by the end because he realizes that when you look at the bigger picture, even though he was having an internal battle, and every single day he's performing righteous work and he's tired, almost like you're running a marathon sometimes. Sometimes he even feels like he's defeated, but then he realizes in the end that he'll be victorious. So anything we've done that's really been difficult or hard, whatever that might be, anything where we had to really be focused and stick to it and stick through it, that's what this should be like. It's not easy. It's not easy witnessing to people. It's not easy telling people we shouldn't be doing that. Or at work, hey, that's not an ethical decision. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do it that way. And every day something happens, and you can either face into it the way God would want you to face it, or you can do something different. Here, Asaph realizes, he catches his wind. I know when you're running a race, I used to run, not yesterday, but it was a few yesterdays ago, but I did run, and there's times when you're thinking, wow, this is really long. When is this ever going to end? And so I think that's the same situation a lot of us face. He talked about his feet slipping, and I couldn't see that without thinking about when you're walking in the wintertime, and the pavement looks like it's wet, and you're just walking, minding your own business, and then you fall down, you're eating gravel, because, oh, that was black ice. That's a funny name for it, but still ice. And so that happened to me more than once. But here Asaph felt like his feet were slipping, that he was going on the wrong track. And so he knew that he had to change his mindset. He had to think about it differently. He needed to see the wicked and their prosperity as just for a moment. And from the eternal perspective, he was doing exactly what he should have been doing. Okay, that's one of the Psalms. We have 5 more. We'll never get through 5 more. We may go till noon, Brother Jacob, on this, as far as that goes. Okay, Psalm 74. Would somebody like to read that one? you, Brother Homer. What's happened in this psalm written by Asaph? Mm-hmm. So obviously in this one they're going through some kind of trouble, and he's talking about how the faithful trusted the Lord, and they really struggled with God to understand what's the plan, what's happening. They see what's happening to themselves in front of their face, but they don't necessarily see the bigger picture that God has. And so we can be in a bad situation, we don't understand what's happening, but the Lord can have a plan that we don't see. Sometimes in our lives we don't see it at all. Sometimes we see it later. What Asaph is telling us here about seeking the Lord when you're facing difficult circumstances, when fiery trials happen to us, we shouldn't think of it as a strange thing. When you're a follower of God, it's an expected thing. And so you don't know where the trial's coming from. You don't know who it's coming from. You don't know much of anything about it. But we do know that the Lord is the one that understands the whole situation and can provide us support. There is a thought here that this psalm is both prophetic and descriptive, that it was written in the time of Asaph that lived during David's reign, but it also pretty graphically talks about something along the lines of Babylon's attack on Jerusalem, where it was actually destroyed. And so the thought here is one or the other, and while it appears to God's people in this situation, he didn't give up on them. He may be angry with them, but in the grand scheme of things, it's just for a moment and for the eternal good. If you look at Israel, for example, Israel in the Bible times. Israel's here today. Was Missouri around in Bible times? No, it wasn't. What about other countries that were talked about in the Bible? What about the Philistines? You hear much about the Philistines today? Don't hear much about the Philistines. The Lord has preserved Israel. They've gone through so many difficult situations. You can even see it on the news today where they're being attacked. But they're a small country, and the Lord has protected them. He's watched over them. He has preserved them even until today, and they're going to be preserved forever. We know that because that's what the Bible tells us. God has had so many opportunities to give up on his people. I mean, you look at so many instances of the Hebrews in Israel and where they did it wrong, and the Lord just had patience. We talked about patience when we read in James. We talked about us having patience. How much patience does God have with us? Sometimes I think I have patience, but it is not very much. Compared to the Lord, it's actually nothing at all. And it's something I try to work on. I know when Hope's around, she reminds me I need to be patient. And you can see how the Lord's patience with us is he doesn't always demand us to be faithful 100% of the time, all the time, every time. Sometimes he lets us see the consequences. If we do something wrong, we see the consequences. We realize, wow, that's really stupid. I don't need to do that anymore. I need to do what God wants me to do instead next time. And it encourages us, the patience that God has with us. So many times we ask for help, so many times we ask for His blessings, but we're the ones that caused it in the first place. Lord didn't cause it, we did. So we're asking for the Lord's help to fix what we didn't do the right way in the first place. It talks about in these verses about perpetual desolation. And so this isn't just going in and having a battle with somebody or building or burning a building down. It kind of reminds me of what we just saw recently, the results of the tornado in Mayfield, Kentucky. They got hit December 10, 2021, and now it's 3 years later, and we still see the devastation of it. And you go through the town, and we see a little bit of rebuilding, a little bit of new construction, a few things that were there from before, but some parts of that town are so different that we couldn't even recognize it compared to what we had seen before. And so, it had an impact on us just driving through it, but can you imagine how the people that lived there felt with that happening to them? Think about Israel and what they were able to accomplish under David's reign. And then when they were sacked, people were carving off pieces of the temple and taking it with them. So there was really nothing left. So at the end of this, or sorry, not the end, in verses 12 through 17, it really is helpful when we're in a bad situation to remember all those times that the Lord's helped us. That even though it's bad today, the Lord's helped us so many times we wouldn't even have any idea how we would be living if the Lord wasn't helping us. When I was growing up, we had difficult times. There were times we didn't know if we were going to have food. We prayed for food, and the Lord provided it. We had difficulty having a baby, and we prayed about it. All of you prayed with us. And the first one is about this tall. Is way bigger than me, and then two more after that. And so the Lord it's not like a statue, not like an idol, not like something that's just dead. The Lord is out there helping us, and His help is there when we follow His will and we follow His way. He wants to help us, and much of the time He does help us. We don't even recognize it sometimes when He's helping us. And so in this situation, even though it was bad, Asaph is talking about, remember all the times that the Lord has really come through for us. And there were so many examples of that. And then lastly, they're reminding God, this is verses 18 through 23, that these attacks on God's people were also attacks on God Himself. And so is that bad to remind God about that? I don't think it's bad. I think it's a way of saying, Lord, do you really want this to happen? Do you want these wicked to be victorious today and claim that you are weak and that you are not able to prevail? Probably not, but the Lord probably has another reason. But the Lord does change His mind sometimes, or listens when we ask, and blesses us. Okay, so that was 2, and we got a minute. So if you got a minute to do 4, probably we can't even read all of it in that time. I would encourage you to definitely read 76. This is when Hezekiah is king of Judah, and the Assyrians, specifically Sennacherib, is wanting to take Jerusalem, and he goes and prays to the Lord, Hezekiah does, and asks for the Lord's blessing. And in this particular case, 185,000 Assyrian soldiers died. So I have a hard time getting my mind around 185,000. So I thought, okay, so that's Busch Stadium to the full capacity times 4. Or Springfield, Missouri, that's 150,000. So that's not even as many as this. So the entire population of Springfield, Missouri going after Judah, and there was not even the loss of one person because the Lord provided. They all died outside the city. So the Lord provided the victory. So a bow and an arrow can kill someone from a distance. A shield is protection. A sword is a weapon between two people. But weapons and protection don't mean anything when God's involved. If you're going against God or somebody else is going against God, my mindset is I'm going to take a step back and see if the lightning bolt comes or now or later, because you know God's judgment is going to happen. I did really bad covering everything today. Sorry about that. I got like 4 or 5 more pages of notes here. So anyway, thank you all. Thank you, Brother Homer, for sharing your favorite stuff. Please do that stuff and bring it back and share with everybody what your thoughts are about your favorite hymns and your favorite psalms. And we'll try to have somebody else share next week. Okay, thank you.